Hello, and welcome to the Once Again podcast. We are your hosts, Ashley and Jason. On today's episode, we will be looking at Once Upon a Time, Season 1, Episode 4, The Price of Gold. This episode was written by David H. Goodman and directed by David Solomon. It premiered on November 13th, 2011, and had a viewership of 11.36 million. A brief synopsis. Emma tries to help a young pregnant woman escape the clutches of Mr. Gold. Meanwhile, back in the fairy tale world, Cinderella makes a regrettable deal with Rumpelstiltskin.
Well, getting right into it, the title card features Cinderella's fairy godmother, which is quite interesting given how very little she has to do with this episode.
Yeah. It was interesting too. She gave me, do you remember when that Whitney Houston Brandy Cinderella movie came? I think
her coloring and stuff.
She wore the gold outfit as well. Yes. I was like, oh, I'm getting like that. It was Whitney Houston, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, you're getting Whitney Houston's gold fairy tale. I felt the same way.
Yeah,
the coloring of the outfit was like completely the same, and I'm wondering if they took that vibe from there.
Probably they take a little bit from everything, it seems. But getting right into this episode, we start off with Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters going to the ball. Her fairy godmother appears and tells Cinderella that although her stepmother said she cannot go, she is going to go anyway. However, immediately after this, the fairy godmother explodes in a horrendous yet amazing display of fire. She is swiftly incinerated, and Rumpelstiltskin appears and grabs her magic wand. Cinderella shouts in despair, saying that he just killed her fairy godmother and that the wand is pure magic. He replies the wand is pure evil and that he just saved her. Cinderella asks if he knows how to use the wand. And it's funny, it made me laugh. Did you ever watch True Blood or no?
No.
In that series, the main character, Sookie, finds out that she's half fairy, or fae as they refer to it. And she has a fairy godmother that's there to protect her. Yeah, and I believe it's Bill, but it might be Eric. Anyway, it's one of the vampires. Fae are irresistible to vampires. Like, they just smell better. Their blood is delicious and everything. And at one point, one of them, I don't remember which one it is, but they just murder her fairy godmother in front of her. And she screams out, "You killed my fairy godmother." So it's funny that line was in here. It gave me the same vibes as watching True Blood. Rumpelstiltskin tells her that all magic comes with a price, and she tells him that she will do anything to have her life change for the better. He tells her that if she can shoulder the consequences, he will give her what she wants in exchange for a favor. She tells him that he will give her anything, to which he says, "And now we're talking," if he can get her out of her present misery of life. He agrees to this for a price. She must give him something of hers, something to be decided upon at a later date, and is taken by him sometime in the future. He makes her sign a contract agreeing to his terms. After this, he waves the wand and puts a beautiful gown on her and glass slippers. He wishes her a good time and tells her to watch the clock.
She doesn't really specify why she needs to be watching the clock, though.
Yeah, I guess that's just on us, the audience, to know that she had to be home by midnight or whatever it was.
I find the contract signing here very interesting. It reminds me of Ursula and Ariel, with Ariel signing the contract in the animated movie.
Yeah, and I didn't think of that. That's a very good point.
It's got really good Ariel vibes there, which is interesting because this is Cinderella, but yeah, I imagine that's where they were pulling that from.
Yeah. One of the trivia things that I found out about was if you slow down the video, you see when she signs the contract that the first letter that she writes is C. And so even though everyone calls her Ella going forward, insinuating that Cinderella was a nickname, I guess canonically her name actually is Cinderella.
Cinderella.
And Ella was the nickname. I thought it was interesting that she points out to him and says, glass slippers, and he responds, every
The
story
story
needs
needs a memorable
memorable
detail.
detail. And it made me wonder, like, does he know her story? Like in the future, we find out Rumple can go to other realms, and like, has he met other Cinderellas? Just something to think about.
I love that they always love to kind of bring up the fact that their stories. I just think it's a way of them nodding to the fact that we're dealing with storybook characters
Mm,
who are in our worlds, but that to us they should be fake as can be, but they're not.
mm. Yeah, no, you're probably right. Back in Storybrooke, Henry and Emma are walking down the streets. Emma drops Henry off at his school bus, and Sheriff Graham shows up, siren blazing. He thanks Emma for helping him find David and offers her a job as the deputy. She tells him she'll have to think about it. I thought it was interesting that Henry says to her in the conversation that they're having that he needs something to call her. And she says, oh, we'll just call me Emma for now. And then he responds, okay, see you later then, Emma. And like he really like stresses the Emma.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know he's kind of looking to call her mom. Like that's what he's
Right,
wanting out of that
right.
conversation, but she doesn't want to commit to that at all because
Mhm,
obviously.
mhm.
But what I find interesting about the scene, Emma's hair is up for once. Like they do a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
interesting stuff with her look this episode,
Yeah,
but her hair is up in a ponytail. Like it's
yeah,
back. It's not down like it almost always is in every other scene in the series almost like.
yeah. And I think she's just walking around in a t-shirt. I don't think she has her jacket on. If I,
No. In the book, she when Sheriff offers her
the job.
job, Emma thinks that she wouldn't mind working late hours with him, but
Oh,
wonders about his relationship with Regina and what that might be because she
hmm.
thinks something's going on, but there's no proof in the book as of
Yeah,
where I've read.
that is interesting. Yeah, the show played with the idea of Emma and Graham kind of getting together.
Yeah,
You
I
got the
don't think
vibe
they
from that.
really play with it right away, but
No,
definitely later on, which I
yeah,
I'm sure this is just alluding to that because the book was written after the first season had already premiered, so
yeah.
they
And
can pull from everything.
poor Graham, in my opinion, he's just one in a long list of guys that fall for Emma that
Hot men that fall for Emma and
they're not long for this world. It's and well, we'll get there when we get there. But seemingly, the only one who can stay with her is the only one who can't really be killed, no matter what. Just keeps coming back for more. Emma heads to the diner for hot chocolate and
she
meets with.
heads for coffee and gets a hot chocolate. I just want to say that now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Hmm.
she says coffee, I think. Maybe that happens in the book, but in the book she mentions coffee. But it always turns to hot chocolate, which is
Huh.
so interesting to me.
I could be mistaken, but I think there was whipped cream on top of it in the
Oh,
episode.
it definitely was hot chocolate. I just
Oh,
feel I don't know if it was just in the book or in this, but something mentioned coffee, and I was like,
hmm,
but she never gets coffee. She always gets hot
hmm. That's
chocolate.
weird. But yeah, like I was saying, she heads to the diner for hot chocolate and meets with Regina, who wants to know how her walk with Henry went. Regina tells Emma that her presence in town no longer worries her because she's looked up Emma's history and found out that she doesn't stay anywhere for very long. Regina knows that Emma is living with Mary Margaret, but believes that Emma will not change her transcendent life. The number 7 is specifically referenced, and that's the number of addresses that Emma has had in the past decade.
Yeah, I just think that Regina's just at this point trying to tell herself like Emma's not here for long.
Hmm.
There's nothing going on.
Yeah, nothing to worry about. Curse isn't going to be broken. Everything's totally fine.
Yeah.
After Regina leaves, Emma drops the hot chocolate all over herself, which I watched twice when I was rewatching this episode. And the cut that they used was like, did she purposely spill it on herself? Like she
That's how
stands
it
up and
comes off
oh
as.
no, like yeah. But she drops the hot chocolate all over herself. She heads to the laundry room after asking Ruby if they have a laundry room. Ruby. in the restaurant to wash her clothes. Sorry. She's what? I think she's only season one, season two, and then kind of every so often. So I got to enjoy Ruby while she's around. She heads to the laundry room in the restaurant to wash her clothes. She meets a pregnant girl there named Ashley Boyd, who tells her that the baby could come any day. She tells Emma that no one thinks she can take care of the baby because she is only 19. Emma tells her that it is her choice because only she can decide what she wants. And this to me is one of those things that I have to ask, like, how does it work with the curse? Has she been pregnant these 28 years, like every
Yeah,
day? Oh my,
like was the pregnancy paused too? Like, and how is
yeah,
the baby okay? Like, I
yeah.
want to know.
That's gonna come out a fully grown adult. But yeah,
Or a
it's
28-year-old human coming out of.
but could you imagine, oh, 28 years of being pregnant every day? This poor girl. Mr. Gold is seen leaving his pawnbroker shop. Once the coast is clear, Ashley puts a brick through the window of his shop. She finds a wall safe, but Mr. Gold walks in, discovers her, and asks what she is doing. She tells him that she is changing her life. Then she pepper sprays him in the eyes and takes the key for the safe from his belt. So I have a couple things about this scene. When Gold is leaving the shop and he locks it, he turns his head to the side and looks as if he suspects someone's there. However, he then walks in the opposite direction, and then we see that Ashley is on that side. She's on the opposite side of where he looked. So does he always just look that way when he's locking up the shop, or like did he know someone and it was just the wrong camera angle that they used or something?
Maybe I would assume just a wrong camera angle.
Mhm. And then I also wondered, if you pepper sprayed Rumpelstiltskin with his magic powers, what would happen? Probably nothing, right? I mean, he gets stabbed and other things happen
I
to
don't
him.
know. He's still a person,
Right.
a man. So I assume it would bother him at the very least. But I think he'd be able to lash out immediately, and you'd probably be dead for doing that.
Well, yes, obviously, but I don't know. I feel like if he was at his full power, if he was Lizard Rumple, as it were,
Yeah.
I think if you pepper sprayed him, nothing would happen.
I do have one note too, and you could probably take this out if you
Hmm.
want to, because it is getting into other stuff like way
No,
down.
go right ahead.
We get a first good look at Rumple's shop and kind of what he has in there, but they do heavily look at those two dolls,
Hmm.
and
Oh,
we know those are Geppetto's parents.
yes,
Like,
yeah,
we as
yeah.
viewers know. So I found that interesting that, like, you
That's some.
know,
I'm
that they
gonna.
really lay heavily on those dolls in this episode, when I don't think we figure out who they are for another episode or two. Maybe it's the next episode, but I know it's
It
like,
might be.
I'd have
I
to look, but
yeah. One of the things when I look up the trivia about the show, I'm gonna have to start doing a better job of putting it with the episodes. But one of the things that is listed is what's in Rumple's shop, or excuse me, what's in Mr. Gold's shop, because they've mentioned like things like toys that Emma had as a baby, or that were there for Emma as a baby in the Enchanted Forest or in his shop. And I'm gonna have to pay closer attention when we see those things, because that's a good catch, seeing Geppetto,
yeah.
and that might be foreshadowing if it is the next episode, or even if it's not. That might be good foreshadowing of
I know
what's to
it
come.
definitely is this season. I just
Hmm.
don't remember quite what episode that is.
Hmm. Well, moving on, in the next scene, Regina is telling Henry that she does not enjoy the city council meetings. She tells him under no circumstance to leave the house. Henry watches her leave, gets his bag, and is clearly leaving the house. I mean, he waited what, all of six
Oh, he
seconds?
waited like 3 seconds.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
surprised she didn't like go turn around to catch him. Like,
Oh, totally. Yeah,
she knew he was leaving.
yeah, yeah. Mary Margaret and Emma are eating at Mary Margaret's apartment, or I guess their apartment now, I should say. And Mr. Gold comes to see Emma. He tells Emma that he has a proposition for her as he is looking for someone. Mary Margaret leaves them alone, and Mr. Gold gives Emma a picture of Ashley. Emma asks, why doesn't he go to the police? And he says he doesn't want to ruin her life. He just wants something back that she has of his. Mr. Gold begs for her help because he doesn't want to see Ashley's baby born in jail. this is a pretty interesting scene, in my opinion. Well, any scene with gold is a great scene, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
But I also think this is the first time we see him now being a little bit like, oh, he's a bit conniving. This is our
Mhm.
first real episode with him to begin with.
Mhm.
Other episodes wasn't so much the star of the episode. He kind of showed up to give us a little bit of a taste.
Mhm.
But this is the first episode we're really getting Rumple at his and Mr. Gold at their like finest.
Well, it's interesting. We talked about what they use with the characters and what they don't use. I know in the original tale of Rumpelstiltskin, and it's been some time since I've read it, but he does have some sort of obsession with getting children, if I remember correctly. But there's
I
also
think so.
there's also a thing about if you know his name, like you have power
Yes.
over him.
Yes.
So it's interesting how they use certain elements. And by the way, at this point, I would imagine we're being led to believe that Ashley stole something from his safe, like money or something,
Yes.
not that she
Not that
stole
she stole
something else.
herself, essentially.
Yeah, yeah, because he is the richest man in town and she took the key to his safe. So it would, you would think, oh, she stole his money. I have here that Henry bursts in the door and sees Mr. Gold. Mr. Gold wishes Emma good luck as he leaves. Henry asks Emma if she knows who he was, since he's having a hard time figuring out who Mr. Gold's fairy tale counterpart is.
So I have a good note for this
Yes.
because in the book, it's specifically Emma thinks to herself, well, we already know it's Rumpelstiltskin because that's what Henry thinks. Now, Henry thinks it's Rumpelstiltskin.
Hmm.
And then Henry also goes on like to figure out like right after this that like Ashley is Cinderella just by being like he just asks Emma, is she pregnant by any chance? And Emma's just like, why did you already know that? I didn't say that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because Henry basically looked it up in the book and was like, oh, I know who this is now because he knows that Mr. Gold is Rumple. So the book definitely portrays Henry as all
Knowing.
knowing.
Hmm. That's interesting because it somewhat does bother me that Henry on the show couldn't. I mean, maybe it's because he's a kid, so he wouldn't really
Well,
understand.
Rumple also looks quite a bit different in the book, I imagine, than he does in real life because you've got Lizard Rumple
Yeah,
going on, not
fair,
Mr. Gold Rumple going on.
very
So
true, very true. Even their hair is different.
yeah, it's different enough where I can understand it, but also I don't think we ever get a point in the show where Henry's like, "Aha! I figured out that it's Rumpelstiltskin." So I think the book actually makes that make more sense that Henry would already know
No, it
because
does.
I
It
don't think we ever come back to this
right, and
statement.
yeah, and it does make more sense that he just knows. But like, the only defense I could see of him not knowing is that since Henry's a kid, he wouldn't necessarily understand that Mr. Gold, like the power that Mr. Gold has in the town, being the richest person in the town and like doing shady
Yeah.
deals and everything, like because Henry's a kid, he's innocent. And also, I imagine Regina kept Henry as far away from Mr. Gold as she possibly could throughout his
Oh,
adolescence.
definitely.
Yeah, I have here a note that says Henry to Emma, "Is that all that you brought?" And this was again referring to Emma's lack of possessions and just someone who moves frequently isn't going to have a lot of stuff.
Yeah, which and I mean makes sense.
Mhm. Emma tells Henry that Ashley is pregnant and desperate and that she has to find her. Henry wants to help her look because he wants to spend time with Emma.
Yep, and she's wearing the blue leather jacket.
Oh, another good catch. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, we are not wearing our signature red leather jacket in this
Hmm.
episode. We are wearing a blue leather jacket.
She has worn the red leather jacket though in previous episodes, right?
Yes, she's been
Hmm.
wearing it. I think this is one of those where I remember reading or hearing that they wanted to change it and see, but I don't think it really went through that well, so they went
Hmm.
back to the red jacket. But
Hmm.
on occasion, you'll note that she does change the jacket. It's not always the same red jacket either.
Hmm.
Those change as well.
See,
But
that's
she,
because I just
all of her
pictured the
jackets
one.
are one of a kind made for her character, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
So
I'm learning so much today right now.
I know a lot about the leather jackets because I love leather jackets.
Yeah.
So
So now we're back in the fairy tale realm, and Cinderella and Prince Thomas are watching the fireworks being held to celebrate their wedding. Snow White and Prince Charming arrive at the wedding, and Snow White compliments Cinderella because she is an inspiration that anyone can change their life. I stressed the word Thomas, or the name Thomas, I should say, because I went and looked it up because I couldn't remember exactly what the Disney princesses, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but what their names were. And in Cinderella, the prince's name is Charming, whereas Snow White's prince is simply referred to as the prince. So here we have Charming, our Charming, Once Upon a Time's Charming is with Snow White. So they had to give Cinderella's prince a different name.
yeah.
Although, and maybe I shouldn't mention this, but down the road, there is a Cinderella who does get a Prince Charming.
I would like to say though that Snow White in the movie, he does have a name that we don't use. So
Yes.
it's Ferdinand or Florian, depending on what story or movie you're watching or reading.
Are they supposed to be French, or is that Italian? Or
Pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I,
Isn't I thought Snow White was German though, wasn't it?
yeah. Oh, Ferdinand.
Ferdinand or Florian. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes more sense that they're German. I know Snow White, based on my episode about Little Snow White and Snow
yeah,
White and the Seven Dwarfs. I know that the evil queen in the film is German or Germanic in origin. Because one of the specific details that was pointed out was that even though she's Germanic in origin, the book of spells that she read is written in
yeah,
Italian. But I'm getting off point now. Rumpelstiltskin shows up at the party, and he says that he is proud of Cinderella as well. He asks her if she has gotten everything she desires, and Cinderella immediately asks what the price is. He tells her it is something that she does not yet possess, but something that is coming, her firstborn. I wanted to ask, does he only appear to Cinderella?
it is a
Because,
question because no one else seems alarmed that Lizard Man Rumpelstiltskin is there, and you
yeah,
would think they would be.
yeah.
Especially, none of them realize she has a deal with them, which we'll see in a second that she has to tell Thomas about it.
And
So
it's not like people wouldn't be, it's her wedding. She's on the dance floor. People would be watching her. So I wonder if he just appears to just her
I'm
as
assuming he froze time temporarily or something like that because I don't
possibly.
know, like, otherwise she would look like she's talking and dancing to herself because their interaction was short, but it wasn't that short. Like,
Well, I just meant perhaps he like glamored himself
oh yeah, I guess that
to
could be
look
true
like a
too.
normal person to everyone else, but to her, she sees
That
him.
could also be true, I
Yeah.
suppose. I didn't think about that.
Mm. The next scene is just kind of a continuation of that. Cinderella is in her room packing a bag when Thomas comes in and asks her where she is going. She tells him that she is pregnant, and he wonders why this has her upset. Cinderella tells him that she made a deal with Rumpelstiltskin and that she would give him their firstborn child. She tells her husband that she is going to lose everything as Rumpelstiltskin is too powerful. Thomas tells her that they will make another deal. Nothing?
Nothing.
Okay. Moving right along. Emma is questioning Ruby, about Ashley. Sorry, I won't do it every time. Emma, Emma tells Ruby that she has a stepmother and two stepsisters, all of which she does not like to talk to. And this is in the show is where Henry puts it together. I believe he's like, oh, she's Cinderella, stepmother,
Yeah.
two stepsisters. She tells Emma that Ashley is really trying to put her life back together. Emma heads over to Sean Herman's, Ashley's ex's house, who is Thomas in the real world counterpart. And Sean's father comes out and tells Emma that he is not going to let his son ruin his life, that he made a deal with Ashley that she would give up the child. He tells Emma that he found someone who is willing to pay very well for the baby, and Emma realizes it's Mr. Gold who wants the baby.
Yeah. So a note from the book here is, when Emma's talking to Ruby, they're also, her Ruby's car is being like dropped off or whatever, and one of Emma's thoughts is, wow, Ruby has a very nice car for a waitress. And
Mm.
I've never thought about it, but now am I thinking about it? How is Ruby affording that car? Where
Um,
did Ruby get the car?
that's why she wears those shorts. She gets a lot of tips. You know, it's sad but true. You know, it happens.
I guess.
She's putting it to use. Henry is telling Emma that she cannot make Ashley break a deal with Mr. Gold. Emma and Henry head to the restaurant to see Ruby, and Emma is upset because Ruby did not tell her that Ashley sold the baby. Emma realizes Ruby gave Ashley her car. Emma asks Ruby to tell her where Ashley is so that she doesn't have to do the deal with Mr. Gold alone. Ruby tells her that Ashley left half an hour ago for Boston because she believes she can disappear there. And my notes, I have Ruby saying to Emma, I can't talk in front of him. He's the mayor's kid. And Henry saying, hey, I'm on your side. It just made me laugh. I thought those were two funny lines.
Yeah.
Oh, also Henry hiding in the back of Emma's car.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, well, that car has a lot of people that hide in the back of it and just pop up throughout the seasons, or at least it's a genetic trait that Henry got.
Yeah.
Back in the Enchanted Forest, Cinderella, Thomas, Charming, and the dwarves are in a cave where they have set up a prison in which they are planning to trap Rumpelstiltskin. They have sent a message to Rumpelstiltskin telling him that a doctor has heard 2 heartbeats. Thus, they are going to make a new deal. They show her a red feather quill, which has a spell on it, so that anyone who signs with it will be immobilized and temporarily powerless.
I love that we see the prison and how it was kind of hear the story of how it was made, especially because we saw it in the first 2 episodes. But I had a thought here, and this relates back to the scene at the ball when they got married. So Charming and Snow are clearly together, and they're at that wedding. Like, what is the timeline going on right now? Because if Snow and Charming are already married, then they already know the evil queen is coming, and Rupple is not in the prison yet.
No.
And I just what is the timeline?
Well,
do they not care? Are they not threatened? Do they think the queen won't actually do anything? Like, I don't understand.
Let's presume that all the maidens of the Enchanted Forest are virtuous. So from when the queen threatens to ruin their happy ending to when the curse actually comes is at least 9 months, because Snow would have had to have gotten pregnant and then delivered Emma.
Yeah.
So I guess Cinderella is also I guess they get married around the same time and she gets pregnant.
Yeah, like in order for this to work, they have to get married around the same time.
Yeah. Like let's say it was a season apart, like winter and fall, or fall and summer, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like Snow and Charming had a summer.
Like Snow would have to be pregnant at the ball, but not pregnant enough to be showing.
Yeah, right. It is interesting. I think once we get to, I don't remember the season number, but once we get to the Camelot storyline, I think it would be very interesting to try and do a timeline then, because there are major retcons in that storyline about characters' origins and what happens and everything. I think if we try to put a timeline together right now, we're just going to end up throwing it out. But yeah, that would make a good episode too, doing a timeline episode. But from my notes, I have Charming and the dwarves are going to trick Rumple. And I think this is the first example of good guys doing a quote unquote bad thing to get what they want. And also Grumpy saying to Cinderella, I hope you like it. A lot of dwarf blood went into it, referring to Rumple's prison. And I wondered, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I wondered if it was literal, like they had to use dwarf blood for some type of magic to keep Rumple in there.
I mean, it could have been.
So in the next scene, we have Emma and Henry driving when they see Ruby's cars crashed and deserted at the town line. They hear screaming and find Ashley on the grassy side of the road having contractions. And my question for this was, she was leaving town and the curse doesn't want to let her leave. So did the car crash induce the labor, or do you think she started having contractions, and that's what
And
caused the
had
car
her.
crash.
Probably more likely that she started having contractions and crashed.
Mm,
Like that just seems to be like it would be more likely, right?
yeah, yeah. Then Emma and Henry help Ashley into the car and drive back to the hospital. Ashley is distressed and frightened that Mr. Gold is going to take her child. Emma tells her that if she wants the baby, she must grow up. And the line she says to her is, "You have to grow up and you can't leave." She says that to Ashley about the baby. And I thought that was
Yeah.
interesting because you have Henry in the back of the car and you have Emma growing to really care about Henry
Yeah.
and maybe like regretting her decision to give him up.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm. So now we go back to the Enchanted Forest. Cinderella is meeting with Rumpelstiltskin, and she tells him she wants to alter the bargain. He tells her that is not what he does, and she lies and tells him that she is having twins. He asks her if she wants to give both of them up. She tells him that her husband is having problems as the lands are poor and they cannot feed their people. She tells him that she can always have more children, but she cannot make the lands fertile. She tells Rumpel that if he signs on the dotted line and makes their lands fertile, he can have both children. Rumpel reminds her that the only way to stop him is with magic, and all magic comes with a price. And if she imprisons him, she will be in even more debt to him. He takes the quill and signs the contract and is frozen. He tells her that no one breaks deals with him and assures her that no matter what, he will have her baby one day.
I find this so interesting because like he really alludes like I know what you're trying to do. I
Yeah.
wouldn't do it. It's not going to go well.
Yeah.
And she still goes through it. Even though Ella is the one person that's like maybe we shouldn't use magic to do this.
Yeah.
And she was right. Like that was not the way to go about it at any point.
Well, he's a fascinating character because we find out later on he wanted to be in the prison, like at the time that he was
Yeah.
imprisoned and everything. So it's not really doing him any harm to have this
Like that's
done.
why that's
Yeah.
why he signs. He would not have signed if that's not what he wanted to happen in the first place.
Right. My question is, what does he want her baby for?
Okay, so I actually have an answer to this.
Okay.
We're gonna go to the later seasons altogether because
Okay.
the Black Fairy wants babies, and we do see an episode with the Black Fairy where he kind of gives her, well, tries to give her a baby to get her to come out so that he can let her know who she is to him.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's why he wants the baby, but again, I don't understand the timeline then if that's the case
No,
because that seems like a really weird timeline.
that's probably right. I don't know if they were thinking that far ahead. Maybe they were when they wrote it, but I more so just imagine it was sort of a callback to the original Rumpelstiltskin tale of him wanting children and stuff.
Yeah.
But it just caught my eye because in later episodes we see him take things from other characters. He gets something from Charming, he gets something from Snow, and then he uses those things together to get what he wants.
Yeah.
I was wondering if he wanted the baby for something, like, he wanted their firstborn child and someone else's firstborn child or something. But I like
I mean, it could be.
I really like your Black Fairy theory. I think that's an excellent idea.
I mean, I'm not sure that's what they were thinking of when when this was written, but
I'm sure they would say it was now.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with that. That makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, and I like that. That's now headcanon. In the current timeline, Henry tells Emma that she is different because she's the only one that can leave Storybrooke. Henry tells her that she is the savior, that she can do anything he wants. The nurse comes to tell Emma that the baby is born, and the new baby girl and mother are doing fine. Mr. Gold shows up and thanks Emma for finding his baby. I feel like Henry pointing out to her that she can leave and everything like that. I feel like that's from that classic story. I can't remember what it like the hero's journey. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like the call to action. I feel like this is kind of Henry like saying, oh, you could go if you want and you're different, but I like the line that he says to her about, she was like, well, you left, and he's like, I'm 10, I had to come back.
Yeah, like of course I came back. I had to legally come back.
Moving on, Cinderella tells Thomas she is so happy because she thought she would have to go back to her old life. Thomas tells Cinderella that as long as he is alive, nothing will happen to her. Cinderella starts to feel sick, and Thomas runs to get her some water from a well. She calls to Thomas to come back as she is feeling better now, but he does not respond. When she goes to the well, she finds nothing but his cape. Cinderella confronts Rumpelstiltskin and demands to know where her husband has disappeared to. Rumpel reminds her that all magic comes with a price and tells her that she will not find her husband until the price is paid from the original deal they made. And in my notes, is the well that Thomas goes to the same well that we see in later episodes?
I mean, it might be.
Okay. It's kind of
But
have it
I
kind of
think
has
it's
a
interesting too, is you realize that he said like, oh, they won't be together in this life or the next until the price is paid. And when did Thomas show up? After Emma had struck her deal with gold and basically
oh
taken on the burden herself. And that's when Thomas showed up. He didn't show up sooner than that because he couldn't, in
well
line with the magic going
now
on there.
now you're just making me think. I have a note here actually. I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but it is the reason that he wanted to have the baby just to be able to bargain with Emma in the future. Like
It could
he
be.
set this all. He wasn't even interested in the baby.
Set
He
this all in motion.
Yeah, who knows? But I have here Mr. Gold is speaking to Emma, and she wants to know why the baby is his merchandise. He tells her that if anyone could understand why someone would give up a baby, she should. Emma tells him that he is not getting the baby, and he tells her that if the deal is not met, he will simply call the police and the baby will end up in the system. Emma tells Mr. Gold that she is willing to go to court and testify against him, and she doubts that the contract will hold up in court. Mr. Gold realizes that he cannot bluff Emma. Emma asks him to tear up the contract. He tells her that is not something he does. Mr. Gold offers a proposition. If he lets Ashley have the baby, would Emma be willing to give him a favor in the future? Emma agrees. Mr. Gold is the only one besides Henry who seems to understand Emma is very special because she is the daughter of Snow White.
Yeah.
Emma goes to visit Ashley and tells her that the baby's name is Alexandra, which is something that Thomas wanted to name the baby in the fairy tale world, and Cinderella
Yes.
did not like it. Emma tells her that she has taken care of Mr. Gold as she has made a deal with him. Emma realizes that it is almost 5 p.m. and she has to take Henry home because his mother will be expecting him. Emma tells Henry that she has decided that her code name is Pumpkin in honor of Cinderella. Henry tells her that he has a better one, but is not sure that she is ready to hear it yet.
We're just
Meanwhile,
alluding to the mom thing
oh
again.
yeah,
Like, okay, Henry, you're
oh
getting
yeah.
heavy-handed.
And meanwhile, Regina is seen dressing and leaving someone's house, which is alluded to be Graham's house. She speaks to him as he is in the shower, revealing he and Regina are having an affair. And I have here in my notes that council meeting is code for Regina and Graham hooking up.
Is it a house or is it Granny's?
That's a great question because the
Because
design.
I'm pretty sure it's Granny's, if
Yeah.
I'm being honest.
Yeah, the design looks exactly like the same room Emma was staying
I think
in.
it's meant to be Granny's.
Okay. Emma takes Henry home and he runs up the stairs just as his mom gets home. Regina storms up the steps and tells him to not leave his shoes lying on the stairs or someone could get hurt. Sean shows up at the hospital to see Ashley and the baby, and he tells her he is back. He bought a present for the baby, a pair of slippers, to which Ashley says they're perfect. My note here is Sean's line when he sees them. He says, "Is that her?" And I wrote,
When I
"No."
started giggling a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah,
ago, I saw your note and
yeah,
was like, oh.
yeah. No, Sean. Ashley is holding another random baby. Like, yes, that's her.
He just has to be sure, maybe
Yeah.
Gold did take the baby and it's a totally different
And
baby.
Ashley stole a different baby.
Maybe they're using her to like nurse a baby from a mom who can't
Um,
nurse. I don't know.
All right. Well, Sean's not the smartest of people, it seems. I have here Emma calls Graham and asks whether the deputy job is still open, and she wonders if Regina is going to be happy about this, and Graham tells her he's not concerned. But then we see he picks up his socks from under the bed, which Regina told the person that she was with to do that because last time he left them behind. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, we know that Graham and Regina are hooking up. I have some trivia and production notes, something that's changed. The season 6 episode, The Other Shoe, canonically establishes her real name is Ella, while her nickname is Cinderella. But that's a different Cinderella, right? Season 6.
Trying to
No,
remember.
no, season 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's just.
But I also don't remember Cinderella being in season 6.
That was something. Her and Sean are tied for the longest gap in between episodes that they're in, and it was like 4 or 5 seasons or something like that. And then the second person was Gaston, I think, was in second place because he was like 3 seasons or something. It was a list. On-screen numbers, the pawn shop address is 3480. I don't know why. I think that was a Lost reference. I can't remember why I put that in here.
It might have been. I feel like I heard that number before in reference to something, so that could be it.
A recycled CGI set, the computer-generated imagery model created for the interior of Prince Thomas's castle is recycled and reused for King Xavier's castle in season 2, the episode The Miller's Daughter, and Prince Eric's castle in season 3, Ariel. I did think I'd seen it before, but we've watched this series a couple times now, so
a castle's a castle in the show.
Yeah, this can be seen from the archways, the balcony outside, which have very similar design. The model is used again for the Camelot Castle courtyard in season 5, and the Princess Castle in season 7 premiere, Hyperion Heights, which can be seen from the archways and the railing on top of them. Observations: several of the guests in the background of Cinderella and Thomas's wedding celebration ball are computer generated. On-screen numbers: Sean and Mitchell's residence at their house is 431. Observations: according to Emma, Boston is 4 hours away from Storybrooke. 2 objects of Emma's childhood are hidden in the episode. The glass unicorn mobile from Emma's crib in the pilot can be seen hanging in Mr. Gold's pawn shop. The purple and white baby blanket she was found in, also in the pilot, is visible in a suitcase behind Emma as she unpacks boxes. When Henry loses his shoe on the stairs towards the end of the episode, it is an allusion to Cinderella losing her glass slipper on the stairs. Ruby mentions Ashley is taking night classes, which implies Storybrooke has a university, or at the very least, the high school offers nighttime college classes. And I don't know if I want to read this last one, but maybe. The wolf hanging in Ruby's car is an added allusion to her Red Riding Hood identity, escorted through the woods by the big bad wolf.
Yeah. So what I find interesting about like there being a college or whatever at Storybook 2 is it just adds to the like, but it's a small town, but Regina's like, oh, but it's bigger than you think.
Yes.
But is it like?
Yes. I mean, if we want to go at the very, very, very end of the series, I mean, everything is there. Everything from every world is in Storybrooke.
Accurate.
Yeah, so I think it's quite a large.
Storybrooke is the Narnia / black hole of the United States.
Yes. Yeah. You're not wrong. Anything else you'd like to discuss about the episode?
No.
All right. Well, moving right along then. That concludes this week's episode of the Once Again podcast. We have been your hosts, Ashley and Jason. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can at onceagainpod@gmail.com or tweet us at onceagainpod, all one word. If you're feeling generous and would like to contribute to the show, you can at patreon.com/onceagainpod. Thank you and have an excellent day.